Hello, dear friend. Join us as I tell a heartwarming Thanksgiving story of a man named Harold and how he was reminded that God never abandons us. The cold November wind swept through the bustling city streets, where hurried footsteps and glowing shop windows contrasted starkly with the figure slumped on a worn-out bench. Harold, an old man with a face etched by time and hardship, clutched his tattered coat closer. He shivered, gazing absently at the ground, his mind a storm of memories and regrets. For 20 years, Harold had lived on these streets. Once he was a family man with a warm home and steady job. But life, with its unrelenting twists, had taken it all: his wife, his daughter, his career. A cascade of loss, fueled by his own mistakes, had left him alone and bitter. As the years passed, Harold had resigned himself to the belief that God had abandoned him. Thanksgiving loomed. For Harold, it was a day like any other, except that the aromas of roasted turkeys and pumpkin pies wafted painfully past him, reminding him of what he'd lost. People rushed by, burdened with shopping bags and festive cheer, but none looked his way. His stomach growled as he stared at the ground. For a fleeting moment, he whispered, "God, if you're still there, show me. Just once." It wasn't the first time he'd prayed, nor the first time he felt his plea go unanswered. Shaking his head, he muttered, "Foolish old man," and lay down on the bench, closing his eyes against the biting wind. The next morning, Harold awoke to find an envelope tucked under his arm. At first, he thought it was trash someone had carelessly left, but curiosity got the better of him. His fingers, stiff from the cold, fumbled to open it. Inside was a note written in neat, flowing handwriting. "Don't lose hope. You are seen and you are loved. Meet me at St. Mark's Church at noon today." His heart skipped a beat. Who had written this? Was it a cruel joke? He glanced around, but the streets were as indifferent as ever. Something about the words, though, felt different, genuine, almost divine. With nothing to lose, he decided to go. St. Mark's Church was a place Harold had often passed but never entered. Its towering spire and ornate doors seemed worlds away from his reality. As he approached, he felt a pang of hesitation. Was this some trap? But the echo of the note's words pushed him forward. Inside, the warmth enveloped him like a blanket. The scent of candles and the soft murmur of hymns filled the air. At the altar stood a man, middle-aged, with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. He approached Harold with an outstretched hand. "Harold?" the man asked. Harold blinked in surprise. "How do you know my name?" The man chuckled softly. "Let's just say God has his ways. My name is Pastor James. Come, sit with me." Pastor James led Harold to a small dining hall in the back of the church, where a table was set with warm, homemade food. Harold hesitated, feeling out of place, but the pastor's gentle encouragement broke through his defenses. As he took his first bite, the flavors brought tears to his eyes. It had been years since he tasted anything so good. Between bites, Harold opened up about his life, his family, his fall from grace, the years of loneliness. Pastor James listened intently, never interrupting. When Harold finished, the pastor said, "You've been through so much, Harold, but do you know what I see in your story?" Harold shook his head, unsure of what to expect. "I see a man who's been tested, but not forgotten. You think God abandoned you, but he's been here all along, waiting for you to turn back to him." The words hit Harold like a wave, But why would God let all this happen? Why would he take everything from me? Pastor James leaned forward. Sometimes we don't understand God's plan until much later. The trials we face often shape us for something greater. You asked God for a sign, didn't you? That's why you're here. Harold's mind raced. Could this truly be God's work? The note, the meal, the pastor's words, it all seemed too coincidental. Before he left, Pastor James handed him a small, well-worn Bible. Take this, read it, and trust that God hasn't finished writing your story. Harold left the church feeling a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, but the world outside was still cold and harsh. Doubts crept in as he wandered the streets. What difference did one meal make? Could he really believe in miracles? That evening, Harold found himself on a street corner. Clutching the Bible, a young woman approached, her face pale and anxious. "Excuse me, sir," she said. "Do you know where the nearest shelter is? My son and I are new here, and we have nowhere to go." Harold stared at her, startled. He was the last person anyone should turn to for help. But something stirred in him, a memory of his own family, of the nights he'd wished for a kind soul to guide him. I think there's one a few blocks down," he said, pointing. "I'll take you there." The shelter welcomed the woman and her son with open arms. As Harold turned to leave, the shelter director called out to him. "Wait, we have room for one more tonight. Would you like to stay?" Harold hesitated. He hadn't slept indoors in years, but the thought of a warm bed was too tempting to refuse. That night, as he lay under a soft blanket, he opened the Bible Pastor James had given him. His eyes fell on a verse from Matthew chapter 25, paragraph 40. "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." The words pierced his heart. Had God used him to help that woman and her child? The idea filled him with awe and a newfound sense of purpose. Over the next few days, Harold found himself returning to St. Mark's Church. He attended services, joined meals, and slowly began to rebuild his faith. On Thanksgiving Day, the church hosted a community feast. Harold volunteered to help, serving plates of food to others in need. As he worked, he noticed a familiar face in the crowd. The young woman he'd helped, now smiling and full of gratitude. She approached him with her son and said, "Thank you. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here today." Tears welled in Harold's eyes. For so long, he had seen himself as worthless, a man abandoned by God. But now he realized he had been part of a greater plan all along. That Thanksgiving, Harold experienced a transformation. He saw how God worked through ordinary people and small acts of kindness to create miracles. He learned that trusting in God didn't mean life would be easy. It meant believing that even in the darkest moments there was a purpose. As the feast wound down, Pastor James approached Harold and placed a hand on his shoulder. "See, God hasn't forgotten you." Harold nodded, a smile breaking through his weathered face. "And I'll never forget him again." Harold's journey teaches us a powerful lesson. No matter how lost we feel, God is always with us. His miracles often come through unexpected means: a kind word, a helping hand, a stranger's generosity. When we trust in His plan and open our hearts, we become part of those miracles, spreading His love to others.
This Thanksgiving, let us remember to be grateful, not only for what we have, but also for the chance to be a blessing in someone else's life. For in giving, we reflect God's love, and in trusting, we find our own miracles. If this story moved you, inspired you, or gave you a fresh perspective, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of hope and transformation. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let's spread the message of love, faith, and gratitude this Thanksgiving and beyond. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder that they're never alone in their struggles. Together, we can make a difference one story at a time. See you in the next video.